Hello and welcome to the second part of this video tutorial, and we are going to solve the IT paper 4 for November 2022 animation question. In our previous video, we looked at how to draw the plane using Adobe Illustrator, out of which we created an SVG image which we will apply in the animation. So to begin with, task 3 requires us to set our stage to 1280 pixels wide by 720 pixels high. And then we have to use the sky PNG, cloud PNG, and TTC SVG image files to create a background as shown. Next, we are to use our plane image to create an animation of the aeroplane. And it must take 6 seconds to enter the stage from the left, follow the path, and leave the frame on the right. Now we have to take note that the image must match the size shown in the example. The path of the aeroplane is behind the cloud image and the cloud is partially transparent. 1 second after the aeroplane has left the frame, it must reappear from the right and take 6 seconds to follow the new path shown. After 1 second, the animation must restart. Then we have to save the animation as an animated GIF with a file name OpenDay followed by the center number and candidate number. So we begin by creating the stage with the required dimension 1280 by 720 pixels. We can leave the frame rate at 30 frames per second and the action script, the platform type, as ActionScript 3.0. And we click on Create. Now let's readjust our stage by going into the size here and changing it to fit to in window. And then we begin by importing our images, start to form up our background. So first I go to File, Import, Import to Library, and then we are going to pick TTC, Sky in the Cloud. Click on Open. If it says import each to different layer, click OK. Now we go into the library up here and then ensure that all our images are intact. So I begin by picking the sky and dropping it on the stage. And then we use the free transform tool to resize it. I can bring this anchor point to the top left corner so that our resizing will be based on that corner alone. Sorry, I'll move this here. Just drag this over here. Let me reduce this to 50. And then bring this up. Now we can rename the layer for easy identification to Sky. Add a new layer onto which we drop our building. Can bring it to the bottom left corner and bring the anchor point there as well and resize. Note that we are doing all this using the free transform tool. I can rename the layer building, then add another layer, rename it cloud, and drag our cloud from the library and drop it onto the stage. Place it somewhere where it fits or matches what it is with the question paper and Let's bring the anchor point to the top left and resize it till it matches what we see in the question paper. Something like this is okay. And lastly, we need to bring in our plane. So once again, we go to File, but this time around we can place it directly onto the stage. So I'm going to create a new layer here, name it Plane, and go into File, make sure the plane layer is selected, go to File, Import, and instead of Import to Library, say Import to Stage. In so doing, it drops your image directly onto the layer. Then I select the plane we created in our previous video and click Open. Now the plane is supposed to appear, but it's not appearing. Let's try and import it into the library. Export, import to library. Select the plane once again. Open. Nothing showing here as well. Now there's sometimes Animate behaves this way. So if you find yourself in an examination situation and you import and it doesn't show, the other way around it is to drag and drop it onto the stage. So still with our plane layer selected, so we maximize our folder and look for the plane we created, drag and drop it onto the stage. You can see it import all parts into the same layer and click OK. So next we are going to use our free transform tool to resize our plane. And I'm going to bring the pivot point down here, somewhere here like this, and resize the plane till it fits what we have on the question paper. I think this size is okay, and then I'm going to place it somewhere outside our screen, somewhere in the top left corner, and rotate it this way because it's going to be coming in this way. If that's done, next we need to add our path, the guide along which the plane will fly. So I create a new layer and we name this path, and then we pick our pen tool, just a pen tool, and then we can start drawing our path. We can begin from outside. So you just click, hold and drag to make your curve. And ensure that it ends outside. Next we pick our selection tool once again, click away, right click on the path and select guide. Now we select the plane layer and indent it beneath the path. Click and drag it to the right a little bit, and then when you see that white dot, you release, then it becomes indented and the icon for the path changes. Now the first animation requires the plane to fly from the left of the stage, follow along the path and go out through the right, and that should happen in 6 seconds. So on the timeline we look for 6 seconds We look for 6 seconds on the timeline and then select all the layers that have been created, and then we add a keyframe. For now, nothing has happened because we haven't added any animation yet. Click anywhere on the plane layer, right click and select Create Classic Tween. If it gives you this warning for converting to symbol, just ignore it and click OK. And then we have our layer changing to a classic tween. Now we bring the playhead to the end, and still with the selection tool, we drag our plane to the far end of the path. You realize that there's this black circle formed around the tail end of the plane, and make sure it's suction cups on the path. And so when we grab our playhead through, we have the plane going through the path. So it begins by flying this way, going round, and then ending up like this. So now let's fix the way the plane looks while it follows the path by selecting the layer, going into its properties panel, and under frame we look for tweening. So under tweening we select orient to path. Now we drag the playhead to the end and pick the free transform tool, select our layer and readjust it so it looks straight. Now when we play it through, we realize that it now takes or moves along the path correctly. Now when we play through our animation, we realize that when the plane loops, when the plane makes a loop, it sort of goes out of the stage. Part of the wings go out of the stage, which is wrong. So to fix that, let's bring our playhead back to the beginning of the animation. Select the free transform tool, click on the plane layer once, and let's reposition this white anchor point or the pivot point to be somewhere on the wing of the plane. And when you do that, the plane readjusts itself. And this time around, when we play back, we realize that the plane doesn't move out of the stage. So when we get to the end of the animation, once again select the layer, and here as well reposition the anchor point from the tail to the wing of the plane, and then bring it up till it suction cups to the path. And this time around, when we play it back, we will not be worried about the plane getting out of the stage. The second part of task 3 requires that the plane returns on a different path after a 1 second wait of the first animation. We are then to save the entire animation as open day, followed by your center number and candidate number. So we are required to provide a 1 second wait after the first animation. And to do that, we go to the 7-second mark on the timeline. I have my 7 seconds here. Select all the layers. We can click hold shift of the sky layer and click on the path layer to select all the layers and add a keyframe. Next, we're going to add a new layer, and let's place this layer on top of the path layer and rename it path 2. Can name it path underscore 2. And with the playhead at the end of layer path 2, we add a keyframe there as well. Now, since we are not going to need path 1 or the first path we created, we can click on the eye tool to hide it for now. Let's create another layer for the returning plane. New layer, File, Import to Stage. We select our plane and click on Open. Import all parts to the same layer. Click OK, and then we have our plane. This time around, our plane will be facing the other way around, so I'm going to click and drag till I have something like this. But we realize that open day is not facing the same, or it's not readable. It's readable backwards. Even the numbers on the plane are inverted. So to fix this issue, we need to go back to Illustrator and go back to the plane we first created. So here we are. This is the first plane we created. So what I'm going to do is select the entire plane, or better still, just select the ribbon. We can bring it this way, and then what do we do to the plane? Select the entire plane, go to Object, Transform, and Reflect. We are not making a copy, so just click OK, and then we do this. But before we do that, let's ensure our plane is within the stage, and then we bring our ribbon to the back like this. Select the plane and group so that we can have access to the numbers as well, and use the same method of transforming and reflecting to change the way the number looks. Object, Transform, Reflect. This time it's not vertical, it's going to be horizontal, and click OK. And then we just rotate it or fix it a little bit. Do the same thing to the other side. Object, Transform, Reflect. Click OK, and then we rotate it just a little bit. Now I'm going to save this as an SVG as well. Go to Save As. And since this is just going to be temporary, we don't need to add candidate number and stuff. So we can just say plane underscore left, so we know that it's the plane coming from the left, or plane coming from the right instead. So plane underscore right, so that it doesn't overwrite the actual one that is needed by the task. So we click OK. So we have a second plane. Now we go back to Animate. Now what we can do to this is delete the entire layer because we don't need this. Select the layer, click on the dustbin to delete. Create a new layer. Go to File, Go to import, import to stage, and let's select our plane that we just created. And if it's not showing, as usual, as I said, just open the layer or maximize the layer, and then we can drag and drop in there. Let's look for the plane right. There it is. And import all parts into the same layer. Click OK. And there we have it facing the other way with open day and the numbers all showing correctly. Now I'm going to bring the pivots down here and resize our plane till it matches the other one. And then I'm going to bring it to the top right and bring the pivot somewhere to where the wing is. And once again, I'm going to rotate it this way because it's going to come in this way. And when we're done with that, we create another layer. Have we created that already? Okay, we've created a layer for path 2 already. So what I'm going to do is bring the path 2 layer on top of the plane layer. And then we pick the pen tool. And then we draw our second curve, or it's also our second path, which is also supposed to begin from outside the stage. You can always click and drag to readjust your curve. There we have it on path 2. Now the animation is supposed to last for 6 seconds. So we go after 7-second mark, we go 6 seconds ahead. That's on the 13-second mark. We look for 13 seconds on the timeline. There we have it. Select all the layers. Then we enter or insert a keyframe. Now we forgot something. Let's quickly do that. Select path 2, change it to a guide, and plane right, we indent it beneath path 2. Now we click anywhere on plane right, on the plane right layer, and create a classic tween. Now we bring our playhead to the very end. Make sure we have our selection tool active. And drag our plane to the very end of the path. So in so doing, our plane is supposed to follow the path starting from the 6-second mark. Now we need to ensure that the plane follows the guide correctly. And to do that, we can bring the playhead to the very end, or better still, click anywhere on the plane layer, and under tweening to our properties, under the properties panel, we select orient to path. Then move the playhead to the very end and select the plane, and let's place our pivots near the wing. Rotate the plane for it to point upwards and place it on the guide like this. And let's scrub through once again and see. So this time around our plane follows the path correctly, and for the next 6 seconds it flies in and out. To end the animation, there should be another 1 second wait. So we do that on the 14-second mark. Here, select all the layers. You can hold down Shift, select all the layers, and insert a keyframe. In so doing, there's a 1 second wait after all the animations, and then it begins again. Let's test what we have so far. You have the first plane coming in. There's a 1 second wait, and then the second plane comes in and out. Another 1 second wait, and then the first plane comes once again. 1 second wait, the next plane comes in and out. We now need to ensure that our cloud is in front of the entire animation. So to do that, all we need to do is drag the cloud layer and drop it in front of or on top of all the layers. So when we play back, our plane will be flying behind the cloud. But also, we were to note that the cloud opacity should reduce. So bring your playhead back to the beginning. Click on the cloud layer once. Go into color effects. Select alpha and reduce it to 60. Now play back your animation, and you have this faint cloud in front of your plane. We now need to save or export our file in GIF format. Let's refer to the question paper and name it Open Day, followed by a center number and candidate number. So we go to File, Export, Export as Animated GIF. We have that here. So ensure that the type is GIF and the resolution required is also correct. And then we click on Save, and then select your folder and type in Open Day. I'm going to give my imaginary center number and candidate number as well, and then I save. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any comments and suggestions, you can leave them in the comment section. Until we meet in the next tutorial, it's bye.